Welcome everyone to the third segment in our 2023 Smarter in September series. I'm Kelly Robert. I'm the Journey Program Manager here at UBT. And Journey affords opportunities for education, enrichment, and entertainment for our customers who are over 50 and their friends. I guess the more the merrier, right? Today's segment is Smarter Decluttering, getting ready to right size. I got so excited I had to look at my notes. Jeannine, I know the name of your presentation. Jeannine Bryant is with us today. Jeannine owns Changing Spaces. She's the author of a couple books. She's a busy lady and a senior relocation expert. And Jeannine knows a lot about getting rid of stuff. So she's going to talk to us today. Just settle in. You'll want to take notes. Jeannine, thanks so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Kelly. And I'm so excited. It looks like 72 people, if I'm reading that right. So hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Are you ready for me to get going, Kelly? Okay. So Kelly is in charge of making sure this all looks right. Hopefully you can see my face and you can see my PowerPoint presentation. And so today I'm going to help all of you tackle your stuff, because maybe I can't see you, but go ahead and raise your hand if you are with us today and you have too much stuff in your house. And how do you know if you have too much stuff? Well, it's stuff that you're not using and stuff you don't love, because those are really the only two categories of stuff. I'm going to look up here at my camera so it looks like I'm looking at you. Those are the only two categories of stuff we should have in our house, right? Stuff we're using and stuff we love. That stuff we love, well, that's the keepsake stuff that really is meaningful to us. One example for me is my great-grandmother's spinning wheel. I am thankful that I live in the year 2023 and I don't have to spin wool into yarn so that I can make warm clothes, but it's cool and I love it. And so I have that spinning wheel in my home, even though I don't use it, but I do love it. So today we're talking about helping ourselves let go of things we're not using and that we don't love. So jumpstart your right sizing. Throw out 50 things. Let's see if I can advance my slide. There we go. Okay. You might need to right size if. Well, how do you know if you need to right size? Let's see. Think about your garage. Maybe your garage is being used to store lots of things except your car. Right? And it's a beautiful day out today, but winter is coming, folks. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to park all of your vehicles in your garage? Maybe that's a goal that you want to set today. You might need to right size if there are kitchenwares stored in your garage or in your basement. The goal should be that all your kitchenwares fit in your kitchen. If that's not the case, you might need to right size your kitchen items. You might need to right size your clothing if you have clothing in every closet of the house. I'm not asking you to raise your hand, but I've been in enough homes here in Lincoln that I know that lots of times that is the case, and maybe one person is taking up space in every single closet in the house. You might need to right size if you would have no idea where important documents are, like your passport, your birth certificate, your marriage certificate. You have no clue, okay, where those things are. So those are some maybe red flag warning signs that you might need to right size. Oh, here's another one. If there are lots of packed and sealed boxes still in your home from the last time you moved, right? And that might have been a couple years ago or several years ago. That might be a clue. But it's time to right size. So what is right sizing? Well, right sizing is finding that perfect place between too much and too little, right? Lots of times the folks that I work with at my business is called Changing Spaces SRS, and we help seniors who are downsizing and moving. And so lots of times the folks I work with are downsizing. They're going from a larger home to a smaller home. But that sounds kind of negative, doesn't it? And so really, we love the term right sizing because the hope is that you're not going to a place that's too small, but you're not staying in a place that's too big. The goal is that you're moving to a place that's just right. It's like Goldilocks, right? Finding that place between too much and too little, letting go of the stuff that doesn't matter and keeping the stuff that really does. A lot of times folks who are over 60 are maybe living in a home that they've been in for decades, and there might be several rooms of that home, or maybe even several levels of that home that are not being used. Maybe you don't, maybe stairs are hard for you, and so you don't find yourself going down to the basement anymore. Or maybe you're in the home that you raised your kids in, and now those kids are grown up and moved out, and now you have several empty bedrooms in your home. And so that's a clue that it might be time to move to a smaller living space, maybe a townhome or an apartment in a senior living community, where you are going to be using all of the rooms in your living space, right? There's not going to be a whole lot of excess empty rooms. Empty rooms full of stuff, right? Because that tends to happen a lot. We have this big house, we're not using a lot of those rooms, but we end up storing stuff in a lot of those rooms. And something I want you to consider today is that your house is living space, not storage space. Right? And something I like to, a little bug I like to put into people's ears is, if you got rid of all of the stuff, the excess stuff in your house, how big would that house be? Right? You might find if you get rid of all the things you're not using and you don't love, maybe you don't need that big house, right? Maybe, a lot of the folks that we move into local retirement communities, places like the Grand Lodge, the Landing, the Legacy, if any of you are familiar with those, sometimes it's a 1-bedroom apartment. Sometimes it's a 2-bedroom apartment. Sometimes it's a 2-bedroom plus a den. So that means they have a living room, a den, 2 bedrooms. Sometimes they have a dining room and the kitchen. Some of those are over 2,000 square feet, quite frankly. Not all of them, but some of them are quite big. And you can bring just those things that are most important to you and that you'll use. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here. My goal is not to tell you that you have to become a minimalist or that you have to let go of all of your stuff. My goal is that through the right sizing process, you're able to identify the best stuff so that you can let the rest of it go. Keep the best, let go of the rest. That's what I always say. So right sizing is a life that's neither too full or too empty. It's a home that's the right size for your lifestyle and your abilities. A lot of folks that I speak with who are moving out of a large home, one of the things they say is it's just too much work, right? It's too much work to clean all of these rooms. It's too much work to maintain the landscaping outside. It's a lot of money, right? To pay our property taxes on this large home, the utilities on this large home. So right sizing is also keeping and being surrounded by the items that you love. Being able to enjoy these items because they are properly cared for, displayed, and easily accessible. If you have your great-grandmother's china set and you absolutely love it, but it's stored down in a box in the basement, well, that's not loving, right? That's storing. So if you love it, let's get it out of the basement and let's put it, I don't know, in a curio cabinet so that you can see it and it can bring you joy when you see it. So the first thing I like to encourage people to do when they're embarking on this right-sizing journey is to go on a tour of your home. Now you might think, this sounds silly. I know exactly what's in my home. No, you don't. I'm going to challenge you. I think particularly men fall into this. I work with a lot of folks and I experienced this in my own family. My mother passed away in 2005 and my folks live up in North Dakota. And so my dad is a farmer and his domain was the outdoors, the barns, the shed, the farm, and my mom's domain was the house. He had no clue what was in that house, right? And so lots of times when I'm talking to someone who's about to go on this right sizing journey, I say, okay, I'm not even going to encourage you to do anything yet. I just want you to look in every crack and crevice in your home. Start at the top. If you have a second floor or a third floor, start up there, go room by room and open up every cupboard, every drawer, every closet, look on every shelf, up, down, below, look underneath the bed, just see what's there. I guarantee you there will be things that you have forgotten about, right? And as you're looking through, it might start to become fairly obvious. Oh, I can't believe I still have all of this stuff. I can let that stuff go. It'll become obvious, sort of the easy things that it's time to let go of. So go on a tour, discover what exactly is in that home. Now, if you're in a situation where you do think that you will be moving at some point, it doesn't have to be next week or next month, even if you plan to move in the next year or the next 5 years or the next 10 years, you might think about comparing your new space to your old space. We do this when we're working with someone who is going to be moving out of a home and into like a 2-bedroom apartment. We always start with a floor plan. And that means, because you have to start somewhere, right? We have to figure out, what am I keeping and what am I letting go of? We start with the furniture, okay? And that means that we're taking out the measuring tape and we're measuring how big are the pieces of furniture that we want to take with us. And then if you are moving, you can compare those measurements to the measurements of your new place and really map out a floor plan of what's going to fit where. And numbers don't lie. That's what our interior designer here at Changing Spaces always says. You know, if there is room for it, the tape measure will tell us. We can't just imagine, oh yeah, I think that'll all fit, because believe me, I've been doing this now 15 years. And you will regret that decision. Move day is a chaotic, busy, and expensive day. And if you have not measured and know exactly where the furniture is going to go, you will regret it. So comparing your old space to your new when you're deciding about furniture, but even when you're deciding about little stuff as well, stuff in your kitchen cupboards, okay? You go through your new space and you count, how many kitchen cupboards do I have in that new kitchen compared to how many kitchen cupboards do I have in my current home? Well, a little simple subtraction should tell you how much kitchen stuff you're going to have to let go of. You can get that tape measure out again, and you can measure how many feet of hanging space you have in the closets in your new space compared to your old space. That's going to tell you in no uncertain terms. Remember, numbers don't lie. How much downsizing you're going to have to do when it comes to your clothing. Same thing with the bathroom vanity, right? If you've got X amount of drawers in your bathroom vanity now, what does the new space look like? When I'm helping someone decide what they're taking with them and what they're leaving behind, I always, and they say, I'm going to keep this, I'm taking this with me. I always say, okay, where's it going to go, right? And so that is important when you're thinking about things like holiday decorations. Okay, yeah, I want to take all these holiday decorations. Okay, let's look at your floor plan of your new place. Where is that going to go? Is that going to go in the 2nd bedroom closet? Great. How big is that closet versus how many tubs of Christmas decorations do you want to bring with you? So you have to have a plan for where all of your stuff is going to go. That's how you ensure that you don't bring too much with you, because there's an old saying, something about you can't put 5 pounds of flour in a 2-pound sack, right? Same goes for downsizing, okay? I'm going to touch on keepsake clutter real fast, because keepsake, sorting through your kitchen, your pots and pans, getting rid of clothes that don't fit anymore. Okay, those are sort of practical things. And we're going to talk a little bit more about those things today and give you guys some tips and some homework. Get ready. But keepsake clutter, that's one of the hardest because we're emotionally attached to it, right? And everything has a story, and it can be really hard to let go of some of that keepsake clutter. My quick tip for that is to keep only what you can use or display. Remember, I talked about my great-grandmother's spinning wheel. The only way I was going to let myself keep that, first of all, I was not going to let myself keep it if it was going to be in a storage unit across town. Please don't do that, okay? You're paying every month to store those things, and chances are no one will ever look at them ever again. You're only going to keep a keepsake if you can use it or display it. I kept that spinning wheel because I had a place in my basement living room, which is finished. We have a nice living room in our basement. It's sitting in a corner as a thing of beauty. It's like a piece of decor. Okay, so it's on display in my home. I said I don't use it to spin wool into yarn, but I am displaying it. If I wanted to keep my mother's rolling pin, great. That can go in the drawer in my kitchen. I don't have to display it. But when I get the urge to bake a pie, it doesn't happen very often. That's the rolling pin that I'm going to take out of the drawer, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to think of my mom. Okay, so try to keep keepsake items that you can use or display. Using your grandfather's fishing reel, that's a good use of that. Okay, if maybe your grandfather was a great fisherman, that would be a significant keepsake for you, but you don't actually fish yourself. That's okay. You can hang it on the wall as a piece of decor. So just try to keep things that you can use or display, because it's hard to love it if it's in a box, right? And the reason we keep keepsakes is to make us happy and to remind us of things. And a keepsake can't do either one of those things if it's stuck in a box in the basement or in a storage unit. Okay. I'm going to talk real quick about dealing with photos. Just so you all are aware, today I'm going to speak until 2:40, and then we're going to open it up to have questions. So you can keep that in mind. I'm going to talk about dealing with photos, slides, VHS, and even those 8mm videos, because that's a question I get all of the time. And that's a kind of keepsake clutter, right? What do I do with all of my photos? Okay. My first tip is to get all of those photos in one spot so that we know what it is we're dealing with. Okay. It's easy to think in our minds, oh, I have so many photos, it's an overwhelming amount. Okay, well, how much are we talking about? Do we have 2 boxes of photos, 6 boxes of photos, 36 boxes of photos? Okay. Get them all in one spot so that we can really see what it is we're dealing with. And then the first step is to sort through them. While we're sorting, we're going to discard certain kinds of photos, and then we're going to put the rest of the photos into various piles. Yes, it's okay to throw out photos. All right. Now, here's the criteria if you're going to throw out a photo. Is this a flattering photo of me? If it's not, I give you permission. You can toss it out. Is this a duplicate? Or do I have many other recorded memories of this event? Okay, so back in the day when we would get our photos developed, we'd get doubles lots of times. You don't need to keep the doubles. If you don't want to throw out the double, then put that double print in a pile to send to someone else who would love that. Okay, maybe your brother needs a copy of that photo. Or do you have many other recorded memories of this event? I just went to a wedding this last weekend. It was my husband's nephew's wedding. I probably took 75 photos, okay, of that wedding. If we had printed all of those out, and if this was 15 years from now, would I need to keep all 75 photos of that wedding, or would the best 5 or 10 photos suffice, right? Same thing. If you threw a baby shower for your niece in 1972 and you have 65 photos of that event, maybe it's okay to send the bulk of them to your niece directly. Maybe you don't need to keep them, and maybe you keep a couple of the group shots, and that's enough. Another question to ask yourself, is this worth remembering? Okay, if it's not a significant event, if you went to the 4th of July parade in Seward in 1992, if that was a fun event, but it's not an event that's really worth remembering, it's okay to toss those photos out. Do I know these people? A lot of us have these photos from decades ago, right? Generations ago. They're black and white photos, and we're not really sure who these people are. Now, I don't recommend getting rid of those until you've done your due diligence. Okay, do a little bit of homework and see if we can figure out who these people are. So one way you can do that is just take your smartphone. Okay, all of us have a camera with us now all the time, right? Take a picture of that picture. Okay, the printed photo, just take a picture of it. And then you can send that picture via text to your local relatives and ask, hey, does anyone know who this person is? I'm trying to identify this old photograph. You can post it on your Facebook page if you have a Facebook page. Maybe someone, if it's an old photo, maybe someone from your hometown will recognize it and know who that person is. So you can do a little bit of investigating on your own. And after you've asked enough people and put in a good faith effort, if you still aren't able to identify who that person is, it's okay to let that go. I'm giving you permission. All right. The last criteria is, do I like these people? Yes, really. If you don't like this person, you don't have to keep a picture of them. Okay, so go ahead and toss out those kind of photos. A couple other kinds of photos you can toss out are photos of scenery, right? Photos, because chances are when you pass these photos down, people who were not on that, like vacation photos, people who weren't on that trip with you aren't going to find those photos as meaningful. So go ahead and keep those photos for yourself if they're meaningful to you, but just know that they might not last for generations upon generations, right? Okay, step 2, organize and label. All right, so after you've discarded, we're keeping the best, letting go of the rest. After we've discarded the rest of the photos, we've got only the best ones. Now, maybe it's still an overwhelming amount. If it's more than you want to keep, maybe you feel like, okay, a reasonable amount of photos to bring with me is 2 boxes. If you've got more than that, it's time to spread the wealth. So now we make piles of photos that we're going to send to our siblings. We're going to make piles of photos that we're going to send to cousins. Make a pile of photos that's going to send to aunts and uncles, okay? Or your children or your grandchildren, right? Spread the wealth around. And don't just make those piles. You actually have to do something with those piles. And so that means boxing them up and take them down to your local FedEx or Kinko's and just pay to have them shipped, okay, directly to your relative. And then it's out of your hands, and it's probably a delightful surprise for that family member. Maybe you don't even tell them you're sending them. That would be kind of fun. You don't, and then they go to their mailbox and they get this package from you and they're thinking, well, what the heck is this? When they open that package, you don't know, those might be photos that they haven't seen in years, or maybe have never seen at all. We've got some time. I'm going to tell you a little story. After my mom passed away, I was sorting through a huge pile of her photos and letters. My mom was an only child. She was also the only grandchild on that side of her family. And so she had just generations of keepsakes and stuff. And so I come by this work honestly. I experienced it myself. And she had in her boxes of memorabilia letters that were written to my grandmother in the year 1948 while she was in the hospital after giving birth to my mother. Okay. And these letters came from my grandmother's sister-in-law. And so I'd never met this woman, this sister-in-law of my grandmother's passed away decades before I was born, but I knew who she was. Okay. I read the letter, I could tell. And I thought, okay, well, what do I do with this? I mean, these are letters written to my grandmother, and it was just chit chat. It wasn't anything profound. And I thought, should I throw them out? And then I thought, okay, I do actually know this woman's daughter. This woman's daughter ended up being my godmother. And so I packaged those letters up in an envelope and I sent it to my godmother, whose mother had written these letters. And she wrote me back, and she was so touched that I had sent those to her. Her mother died when she was a child. And the new stepmother had thrown out pretty much everything that belonged to her mother after they got married. And so she said to me, Jeannine, thank you so much for sending me those letters. I'd never before seen my mother's handwriting. So this is a treasure. And so, oh, here it is. I just thought, okay, this is a burden. I'm going to toss these out. I don't need these, but they meant so much to someone else. So spread the wealth. Step 3 is to digitize and back up. After you have sorted the photos and given away a large portion of them, for me, I sorted the photos into, here's my mom's side of the family, here's my dad's side of the family. And then you can either scan them yourself if you're looking for a project. If you're not looking for a project, you can pay someone to do that. There are folks here in Lincoln locally who will do that for you. There's also national services that will do that for you. And so if you just perform a Google search and just say photo scanning Lincoln, Nebraska, those options will come up for you. Okay, now I hope you have your pen and pencil out, because here's the homework portion. And I believe Kelly agreed to call each one of you individually next week and check up to see that you have done your homework. I'm just kidding. But your homework this week is to throw out 50 things. And I don't really mean throw out. You can donate these things, but we're going to get rid of 50 things out of your house. And I guarantee you, you're not even going to miss them when they're gone. Some of you might find as you're going through this exercise that you could get rid of 500 things. Okay, but we're going to start with 50. It's just to kind of get the ball rolling. It's easier than it sounds. What we're going to do is we're going to throw out 5 items in each of these 10 categories. The first category is books and magazines. And to me, these are two categories. magazines, I have in my house one basket where all the magazines live. And I think we're reading fewer and fewer magazines these days. I don't know about all of you, but I know I am. When magazines or catalogs come, they go into one basket in my house. It's in our kitchen. When that basket is full, that is a sign to me that it's time to either stop subscribing to magazines because I haven't read them through and they're still there and they're piling up, or to go through and recycle the old ones. That July issue of Better Homes and Gardens, if you haven't gotten around to reading it, it's okay. There's going to be another one next July, and that's also going to have great recipes in it. So go ahead and toss those out. For books, I always say there's two kinds of books in our house. We've got the books we've read and the books we have not yet read, right? Simple. The books you've read, I want you to ask yourself, how likely am I to reread this book? Okay, if the answer is not very likely, then it's time to pass it on. There's a quote there, I'm never going to read this book again, but somebody else will. But the rest of that quote is, but not while it's sitting on your dusty shelf, right? So let's get it out of your house and let's get it out into the world where someone else can enjoy it. How do we get rid of books? You can donate them to Lincoln City Libraries. The large branches accept book donations any day of the week. They ask that you limit your donations to 2 grocery sacks or less. So don't bring them 10 boxes. But those books either get added to the library collection or they get sold at annual book sales, and the proceeds go to benefit the library. So what are the big branches? Walt, Gear, Isley, and one of the other ones. And so go ahead and make a phone call and ask before you bring those things. But that's a great way to get rid of books that you're not going to be using. Little free libraries around town are a great thing to do. You can just stick them in there. Even places like Goodwill certainly accept books, so you can take books there as well. For the books you have not yet read, ask yourself, how likely am I to read this book in the next 12 months? If the complete works of Shakespeare has been sitting on your shelf for 30 years and you've never opened it, I'm giving you permission. You can let it go. All right. Okay, so we're finding 5 items in each of these categories. I'm asking you to find 5 items of clothing that you can let go of. Now, this might be tops and pants. It might be coats. It might be socks and underwear and pajamas. Okay. You might be able to find 5 items in all of those categories to let go of. Something to ask yourself is, could someone else in my community be making better use of this? Right? Utilize what I call the power of counting. If you really take a step back and you open up your coat closet and you actually count, how many fall jackets do I have? How many winter jackets do I have? How many spring jackets do I have? It might just open your eyes to the amount of stuff you have. That tool came from one of my staff members once telling me that she used to be a nurse, and one of her old coworkers was saying, you know, that she had 93 pairs of shoes in her house. And oh my gosh, my team member, her name is Jane. Jane could not believe it. What kind of a person has 93 pairs of shoes in her house? And she was feeling very judgmental. And she thought, you know, I'm going to go home and I'm going to count how many pairs of shoes I have. She was kind of feeling good about herself. Well, little did she know that Jane had 102 pairs of shoes at her house. And so sometimes our stuff accumulates and we don't really have a good grasp on how much we have. So that power of counting is pretty helpful. If you look at your black pants in your closet, for instance, how many pairs of black pants do you have? How many pairs of black do you need? For me, how many pairs of jeans do I have? Or my husband, how many old grubby holy t-shirts do we have, right? And how many do we really need? So the power of counting comes in handy when it comes to clothing. Kitchen stuff. I'm going to ask that you find 5 items in your kitchen to let go of. Go through your utensil drawer. Think about small appliances that you're not using. Maybe it's a bread maker or a panini maker or a fondue pot. Okay. Try to find 5 things that you're not using and get them out of your house. Number 4 is knickknacks. Knickknacks, okay, what's the purpose of knickknacks? To make your home look beautiful and to make you happy. If you have knickknacks in your house that you don't think are particularly beautiful and don't particularly make you happy anymore, it's okay to let them go. That's one less thing to dust, right? And so just because, you know, these ceramic figurines used to make you happy, it's okay to change your mind. And if you've had them for 12 or 15 or 25 years, it's okay to let them go. Holiday decor. Okay, so we're coming up, and maybe this is Christmas decorations, maybe this is fall decorations, maybe it's Easter decorations, maybe it's every single holiday. When you are coming up on a holiday season and you're getting out all of your decor, try to find 5 items that you're ready to let go of. What happens, especially with women, this is a woman problem, I think, is, every year we're walking through the store and we see another cute new angel or another cute snowman or another cute Santa, and our collection slowly grows over time. And when we've lived in a house for 40 years, we've accumulated a lot of holiday decor, but we haven't gotten rid of any holiday decor. So now we have 47 boxes of Christmas decorations, right? So try to find 5 items that you can let go of. Paperwork and mail. Okay. It's important when you're going through your filing cabinet. When we work with a client, we try to encourage clients to get down to just 1 filing cabinet. If you have more than 1 filing cabinet in your home, chances are you're keeping too much. Nowadays, so much is available online. It's, they used to send out your paper bank statement and all of your canceled checks, right? And that stuff really built up over time. They don't do that anymore. Most of the things can be found online if you need them. And according to the IRS, you definitely don't need to keep anything longer than 7 years. And that's only if those receipts pertain directly to your tax return. So go through, try to pull out paperwork and mail that you can let go of. If you need things shredded, you can take those to any FedEx or Kinko's, and it's quite affordable. They charge you so much per pound to shred those items. All right, go into your fridge and your pantry. Try to find 5 items that are expired. I bet you could probably, just in the door of your fridge alone, find 5 things that are expired. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, speaking from experience, I'm pretty organized, and I was able to do that not too long ago. I was shocked at what I found in the door of my fridge. Pantry items, things that are expired, or even things that you bought that you ended up not liking and you're not going to use again. It's okay to toss those things out. If they're not expired, you can donate them to your local food bank. All right, garage items. September and October is a great time to get out into your garage because it's not so hot and it's not too cold yet. Go through and just try to start with 5 things. My guess is that you can find a lot more than 5 things. Starting with a black trash bag is a great place to start. But then even looking at the tools and the yard things that you have, keep the best, let go of the rest. Maybe you don't need 6 rakes. Maybe you just keep your best 1 rake and you can let the rest of those things go. Number 9 is accessories, hats, belts, jewelry, scarves. These are other things, purses that tend to accumulate. Especially women, we tend to buy more of these things, but rarely do we get rid of, any. And so then after 40 years in the house, now you have, 600 necklaces. I don't know. That would be interesting. Go ahead and count how many necklaces you have, ladies. Don't tell your husbands the answer, but try to go through and find at least 5 of accessories that you are not using anymore and donate those. And then number 10 is toiletries. Go ahead and open up your linen closet, look underneath your bathroom vanity, throw out things that are expired and things that you're not using. Bath salts that you got as a gift, or lotions that maybe you didn't like the scent of, or makeup products that you tried and you don't use anymore, or hair products that you tried and you're not really using. Go ahead and toss those out. Okay, a couple more tips for keeping things tidy. I always recommend having a donate box, always accessible. I keep it in my master closet. It's one of those big Rubbermaid plastic totes, and everyone in my family knows that's the donate box. If you come across anything that you aren't using anymore and you're ready to let go of, it just goes in that box. Every couple months, when that box is full, I know it's time for it to take a trip to the Goodwill. Okay. And so I don't know, I make 4, 5, 6 trips a year to Goodwill, and with just a couple bags of stuff. But that practice built up over a lifetime in a house makes a huge difference. Respect the limits of your space. It is your guide to telling you how much stuff you have. So I have bad news for you. You don't need more storage space. You need less stuff. So even if you have a small closet, well, that is the challenge that, the universe has given you. And you need to just try really hard to have the clothes that you have fit in that one closet. I have one closet underneath my stairs, and that's where I can fit my holiday decorations. So when that closet is full, I know, okay, it's time to start letting go of some of these holiday decorations. So make really respect the limits of the space that you have and utilize the power of counting. I already talked about that, but I think that's an interesting one, is to go, whatever it is you're struggling with, maybe it's coffee cups, go open up your kitchen cupboard and count, how many coffee mugs do I have? And when was the last time that number of people were over at my house drinking coffee at the same time? And if I did have that many people over, wouldn't we be using paper coffee cups, right? So changing spaces, just a quick word on our services. We help seniors downsize and move. We help with the sorting. We do the packing. We manage move day. We get you unpacked in your new place. And we also run estate sales and online auctions. I want to make a note that we are a member of a national association of senior move managers. So if you have friends or family outside of the Lincoln area who need services like that, chances are there's a senior move manager near them. And if you go to this website, nasm.org, you can click on Find a Senior Move Manager, and then you can search by state. So if you have someone in Ohio who needs help like that, you can see all of the companies like us in Ohio, which is kind of nice. And we do free in-home consultations. And so, hey, look at that. Okay, it's 2:40, and I would love to open it up to any questions that you guys have. We have plenty of time. And I don't know, Kelly, do you want to be our MC or?
Absolutely, I sure will. Let me check the chat box and away we go. Will the slides be available to download after the webinar? That is totally up to Jeannine.
Yes, sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll email them to you, Kelly. Is that good?
That's perfect. I can send them out to registered attendees next week.
Okay.
Amazing. Here's another. Do you recommend breaking up a set of treasured china, for example, and just keeping a couple of pieces to display?
I do recommend that. Yes. Okay. So I always say that your stuff won't miss its family. And so dishes aren't emotionally attached to one another. And so it's okay to, if you've got a big set and maybe you're downsizing and you still really love this china, but it's a 12 place setting china, maybe you keep 4 place settings. That is totally fine. And what I always tell my clients is it's not really going to affect the value of the china, because it's probably not worth that much anyway, unfortunately. And even if it is worth a lot, hey, what's worth even more is the fact that you love it, right? So if you love it, keep what you can keep and then let the rest of it go. I've done this with one of my grandmother's sets of china. I have one, I kept a dinner plate and I have it in a display and I have it hanging on my dining room wall. So we don't eat off of those plates, but I use one as a piece of decor. And then I put paper clips in a teacup from that same set.
I love that idea. Neat. Oh, here's a good one. What do I do about collectible items or limited editions? And I think I know what you're going to say to that.
Well, I always, Tom Bassett, who's a local appraiser, a lot of people know Tom. He's, a ball of laughs, right? Every minute. He's got lots of funny sayings. And he used to always say limited edition was a lie. If a company could make a lot of money making something, they're going to make a bunch of them. But yeah, you're right. What I think you're asking is if you're ready to let go of those items, it doesn't feel great to just donate those items, right? Because you spent a lot of money on them and there could be some value in them if you sell them. The challenge is in how to sell items. Now, you can sell it yourself on a garage sale. You can sell it yourself online, like using Facebook, just something locally. If you're really ambitious and tech savvy and have a lot of energy, you can try to sell it on eBay, but that's a whole ball of wax in and of itself. And you have to ship items and all of that kind of stuff. Or you can sell it to like a local antiques dealer, perhaps, if they might be interested. And then companies like us, and there are other companies in town who run estate sales or auctions, but that is usually done in one big chunk. And so it would be hard to find someone who will only sell your collectible plates. Now, if you're moving and you need an estate sale for your entire house, absolutely the collectible plates would be part of that, and you can be sold that way. But it's hard to sell those kinds of things piecemeal with a company because there's just not enough dollar value there to make it worth it for the company.
Okay, great answer. Thank you. The next couple are kind of related. They're along the same vein. And that is one was about, oh, where'd it go? I just saw it. Have several hundred, wow, several hundred 8-track movies from my dad. Do you know where I can sell them? Or if there is a retirement center that would like old movies and his player.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I think that's a very interesting problem. And the player. At first I was going to say, no, you're not going to be able to donate those. But if you have the player as well, maybe. Okay. And so how do you go about that? You take photos of what you've got, and then you start making some phone calls. Okay. You just pull up retirement communities, Lincoln, Nebraska. You start making some phone calls and see if you can have any leads. If you're wanting to sell them or get them into the hands of someone who would really appreciate them, then I would do a Google search, 8-track movies, Lincoln, Nebraska, and see if there are, I don't know, some of the record shops in town. I'm not sure if they would deal in those kinds of things, but sounds like you've got a little research project on your hands. Now, if you can sell those things, awesome. If you find that you're not able to sell those items, but you don't want to just like throw them in the trash, and you feel like maybe it's not a great thing to bring to Goodwill, you want to give them to someone, listing an item for free on Facebook is also an option. And I've done that with things that are kind of a little offbeat, or maybe it's a little broken and it's not really worth anything, but I feel like, well, someone could repair it if they really wanted to. I take a picture of it, I list it for free on Facebook, and then someone, says, hey, I'm interested. And I say, great, I'm going to set it out by the curb. Here's the address, come and get it. And it's nice to know that it's going to be in someone else's hands.
Sure. Great. Thank you. What about keeping things that you want to pass on to future generations?
Yes. If you are going to do that, make sure that you have written down the story and the meaning for those items. Here's an even better idea. Wrap those items up for this Christmas and give it to them now with the written up description of why this piece is important. Don't wait until you're gone. Take a picture with you and your granddaughter and the item, right? Okay. And then that picture will be meaningful and the item will be meaningful, because you will have created a memory. Someday when you're gone, your granddaughter is going to remember getting that keepsake from you, and it's going to mean a lot more than just taking it out of the curio cabinet after you're gone. So.
Oh, I love that advice. I know what our family's getting for Christmas this year.
I love it. Yes.
I have lots of old coins. Any idea where to get them appraised, and where can one check to learn the value of antique pieces?
Yes. So coins are still very sellable. If you're going to get something appraised, I always recommend finding 2 people, because you want one person to appraise them and then maybe the other person to buy them. What's a little dicey is when one person appraises and buys it, because then they're telling you the price. They're naming their own price. You know what I mean? So coins, certainly Changing Spaces, we sell those kinds of things on our online auctions. There's also local coin shops like Lincoln Coin and Bullion, and there's a couple others, I think. Again, if you do a search for maybe collectible coins, Lincoln, Nebraska, you'll come up with a list. Give them a call, bring them in. They'll give you some kind of it is, it's fairly straightforward, the value of them. And so they'll be able to tell you that. And then you can see if you can sell for that. Getting antiques appraised. There are appraisers here in Lincoln. I mentioned Tom Bassett. He's one of them. I think he does charge for his services, but you can call him up and he'll come out to your home and look at your things. Now, ultimately, appraisal, there's a couple different kinds of appraisals. One is for insurance purposes. And then one is, here's what you can actually expect to get for this item. So a thing is only worth what someone will actually pay you for, right? And so if you're selling something in Lincoln, Nebraska on this given weekend, that's different than, what the insurance appraisal might be for.
It's a very good point. Let's see if we have any other questions here. As I look through the right place in my trifocals, I think that is last call for questions. Anybody?
I would just encourage everyone here to maybe think about different charities, places here in town that could use your excess stuff, And make a list. And that really serves as a good inspiration as you are going through your right sizing process and trying to declutter. If you know about one organization that comes to mind is Sewing for Babies. Okay, it's this group that gets together and they sew and they make clothing and layettes and blankets for babies that are born. I don't know if it's all babies or babies in need that are born in local hospitals. And so they're always looking for sewing supplies, fabric, polyfill, that kind of stuff. Once you know those things, it really motivates you to go through and you think, okay, yeah, I've got some extra sewing supplies. If I knew it was going to a good cause, it'd be so much easier to let it go. So maybe that's part of your homework as well, is to make a list of charities in town that really kind of tug on your heartstrings, and then makes it easier to get those things out of your house and somewhere where they can make a difference.
I think that is a great idea. That always motivates me. If I know that I'm helping someone specifically or a cause specifically, I'm much more inclined to let my stuff go. And the question was, what was the name of that charity? Sewing for Babies.
Yep.
Right, Jeannine? Yes.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Do museums ever want old photos?
Maybe. Particularly if they are small town museums, they might be a little more receptive to that. If you call like the, Nebraska Historical Society down here in Lincoln, I know for a fact, because I've known some folks who work there, they are bursting at the seams, right? And they really have to be picky about what they will accept. So it depends on the museum. So again, there's a little research project for you. Do some Google search, get some phone numbers, and start calling some people.
I think the ones that I'm sorting through now, they would be more inclined to be sold to greeting cards or given to greeting cards for those awkward family photos. But that's just me. Places in Lincoln that take good used furniture and will pick it up. Google search again, right, Jeannine?
Yes, absolutely. And picking it up is sometimes a challenge because these folks are working on limited budgets as well. Oftentimes it maybe has to be at the curb or in the garage for a charity to pick up. Don't quote me on that. And then sometimes they're booked a few weeks in advance. And so, you can't call someone and probably get someone to pick something up this week. If you really have a lot of things that you need hauled out, there are certainly folks that you can hire to move those items out and drop them off at charities. But, Habitat for Humanity Restore is one. Goodwill is another. The Salvation Army, Catholic charities, Catholic Social Services, they'll also pick up as well. But they are pretty picky, and we've been in situations like that where they're not just going to pick up everything because there's too much stuff in the world, right? Not just in your house, but everywhere there's too much stuff. And so they're bursting at the seams as well.
Absolutely. Okay, last one. We got a burst of energy from this group here. We had a flood of questions here at the end. Appraisals in Omaha.
I don't know off the top of my head, but if you do a Google search for Antique Appraisals, Omaha, Nebraska, absolutely.
So the homework is make a list, power of counting, throw out 50 things, and get out your phones and Google.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Perfect. Jeannine, thank you so very much for joining us today. I know I'm inspired, and I hope all of our guests are too. I just want to thank all of you that tuned in for joining us today, giving up a little piece of your Tuesday afternoon. I can tell by the amount of activity in the chat box that you have been really engaged, and I love that. I hope you tune in next Tuesday at 2. We have another fantastic presenter. It's Brittany Planos, who works here at UBT, and her husband, Josh Planos, who's with the Better Business Bureau. And it's just protecting yourself against frauds and scams. So it's stuff you really will not want to miss. I can't thank you enough. And those of you who are right here, you'll want to stay on a moment. Those of you who are viewing, thank you so much again. Jeannine, join us again sometime?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.